Hey, huddle up. We got something to talk about. That's RJ. I'm Rob. This is the Morning Huddle. We are talking silver and black as we do every day at 7 o'clock. But in 30 minutes, we're going to be joined by Nick Harris of DallasCowboys.com. Great guy. Got some interesting news as we talk about the process behind after Zimmer got here, how he got here, the hiring process with the assistant named Dirty, who's now gone. We're going to talk about that with Nick, who's inside there up at DallasCowboys.com. But first, in our daily silver and black. When last we saw the Spurs, they gave us what I would have called like shooting a birdie on the ninth hole going into the clubhouse. Just enough where you go, I could easily just grab my bag and go home. It's been a tough first nine. I've been here for 2.5 hours. I'm beating this place to death. I left my 5-iron back on the third hole. I'm almost out of balls. I'm about to go home after this hole. I'll be darned you don't lay up with your 5-iron and you plunk right there on the green and you putt in a nice little 6-foot break putt. You're like, you know what? I think I'm going to hang around for another 9 holes. I think that's what these couple of games could do for me as we head into the All-Star break.
If I move back a little bit, I think people talk about the analogy you just brought up, but like with the end of a round, you know what I mean? And the Timberwolves win was kind of like, you hold out for Eagle on the 18th hole of a round, right? You were like, this game rules. I could totally play golf. I could go pro. If I really tried, I could be amazing at this. And so, you were kind of living off that moment, and you spent the whole next week kind of reflecting on it, texting your friends, and you booked another round. And we just, every game before,
But this round ain't over. We're only halfway through.
No, that's what I'm saying. Every game before Toronto was like the first 8 holes, and you were just hacking it all over the place. And you were like, oh, man, this was nothing like the round I remembered. And then to your point, the Toronto game was kind of like that 9th hole, before the turn, where you're like, okay, I found it. You know what I mean? I found what I just spent those first 8 holes were just me processing, me figuring crap out. And here I am. I understand the game now. We've gotten our hot dog. We've gotten our burger because hot dogs are actually terrible. We've gotten some chips and a power bar and a sports drink, a soft drink, whatever, and we're ready to go for the back nine. Although I don't think it'll go well at
all. When you're a Spurs fan recently, especially this year, you have to choose how you root for your team because you can't root for the team. They suck. They've got 11 wins. That's miserable. So you got to root for a guy. Wemby's the guy we've been rooting for. We got a little payoff the other night, the triple-double in the fastest time anybody's ever done it. And then they combined that with a win. I mean, it was nice to combine my rooting for Wemby, the guy, the jersey, the number, with the name on the chest at the same time. It's nice to be able to cheer for both because that's what I've been waiting on for so long. And as we head into the All-Star break, I told you yesterday, Pop has a sense of the season. This ain't his first rodeo. He's been to a few. About timing. And I just feel like he had warmed Wemby up to go, this is how this is going to go. I'm going to put you in a situation to where you're going to go nuts. And we're going to get this going for you heading into the All-Star weekend because I get the sense the snowball is starting to grow. This is Brian Windhorst of ESPN and the lamprey to LeBron talking about Wemby's presence.
He has not exceeded my expectations because this is what I expected him to do.
Wow.
Because I thought he would be an impact player right away. He's averaging 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 blocks a game in 29 minutes. 29 minutes because he's been on a minute restriction. And last night, by the way, he did all that in 29 minutes. Okay, here's the other thing. The thing that you're probably going to say is that he has trouble shooting.
I wasn't going to say nothing like that.
Well, in the last 13 games, he's shooting 39% on threes. The three-point shot is getting better. And he does turn the ball over. Now, that is a legitimate problem. They got to do something about that. He's got to get better there. But he is only scratching the surface of what he can do.
The unveiling is upon us. Brian Windhorst on the jump.
So, 32% from 3 on the season. Not great, but I think Wendy's been one of the more people think what they do about him, and he's obviously kind of a character with his analysis. I don't mean to say that it's not serious, but he's often one of the more rational people. I wish that maybe his colleague Zach Lowe could listen to him
Right.
And especially if you're out here backing Chet Holmgren, who RJ took higher on 1.5 3-pointers on Monday night in underdog and lost. So, not bitter or anything like that, but I agree with this. I mean, like, we expected greatness. I don't know that we expected like these stupid, unbelievable, impossible things like what we saw on Monday night with the triple double, involving the 10 blocks. But we celebrated the way we did for a reason. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
like we thought that this dude was going to be all time, all class, and he's proving to be so far.
The weekend should be fun. Now, he won't be alone. Jeremy Sohan, a late addition to the Rising Stars, and an apt one. I mean, he'd already done that, and I think the NBA recognized and also heard Greg Popovich plead to let him in, because I think that was an apology when he came out and said that he couldn't believe why Sohan hadn't been invited, because I think it was an admittance that he put him in a bad position. But here we sit. And then we have the opportunity to beat a Maverick team that is, renewed. They were busy during the trade deadline. The matchup tonight with Sohan and Luka is going to be fun.
You think it's going to be fun?
I do. I mean, I do. I think that the Spurs, I know Pop. This was, they had a couple of days off of practice. They came off that. They weren't quite square yet as the trade deadline hit. A thorough thrashing on the road, and they're coming home. All but two of these guys get a 4-day break, 5-day break. Shoot. Against the arch rivals, a team that's just kind of getting to know each other. I think there's a potential here for a very good basketball game.
I would love to believe that. It's just kind of hard to. I mean, the Mavs are kind of finding themselves. You know what I mean? And that's a little worrisome. I mean, not worrisome, but I mean, they feel like they're in a different place. Like, let me ask this: how quality of a win would this be in your mind?
Oh, right now,
right now, like,
it would be a B-level win for us.
Wow.
Luka, Kyrie, Josh, Grant Williams, Derek Lively. They're better. They're more talented. They just made a couple of moves that it kind of put Luka in a situation where now he is able to kick to guys that are willing to wait for it. They don't have to mess around with some of the logs that they had dealt with. I think that this is a team that's also in a good situation, that they feel themselves kind of rising to the second half run, because what I've seen as far as player ball movement over the last couple of games post move, Luka's looking like a reborn dude. I like Daniel Gafford, the way he's playing. PJ Washington is this is a team that I think is they're not a contending team.
Talk about the Spurs or the Mavs?
The Mavs. They're not a contending team, but they're going to win a couple of games in the playoffs. But they're not Denver quality. This is a good solid B win on the road coming home for an All-Star break.
Dallas falls into that box we talked about yesterday, though. I think that if they got hot, I mean, it's like there's a handful of people on earth that if, we get to the playoffs and they're just hot, like it could totally be their time. And Luka's one of those people. You know what I'm saying? Like you could totally ride the Luka wave.
Averaging 34, 8, 9, and almost 2 steals a game. Yeah, that's the kind of guy who can carry you. Watch Derek Lively tonight. The matchup with Derek Lively and Wemby. Lively's not huge, but he's got a lot of bounce to him. It's the kind of guy that if Wemby plays his Euro game, he can take advantage of. But sometimes I see guys bounce in front of Victor, and he's kind of surprised at how high they can get. So I think even at 7'3", his shot gets a little altered because he's just not used to some of the athleticism of the guys that are almost his size. And Lively's the kind of guy that can do that. That should be a fun look-see as well, to see the matchup defensively there. But watching Sohan tonight, I think it's going to be the kind of game that Sohan's going to go kind of try to make a name for himself. Tie his shoes a little bit tighter tonight. Maybe a new fresh dye job, little ice cream flavor going on.
That would be pretty sad.
Have you seen have you been to an HEB lately?
I mean, I go to HEB all the time.
Have you been by the dairy section where they have the statue, the cutout of Wemby? I say statue, the cardboard cutout.
Did you take it home?
I would. But I will tell you this. I don't think it's as tall as he is. I think he's shortening.
You think that the cardboard cutout
is not true to size. I think that, they're feeding this narrative that I don't want to be known as some dude that's like 7'6", or, because I've stood next to him. And I think that the cardboard cutout is a bit shorter.
I mean, it's pretty. Like I don't know that
Durant's the same way. Remember, he's always been 7'1", but he likes to be listed at 6'11". Doesn't want to be known as a 7-footer, and what that connotes and connotates. And I think that Wemby's of the same mind. I don't think he wants to be known like 7'3", 7'4". There's been other dudes, but you start talking about 7'6". I like talking about Game of Thrones kind of stuff. Like, this is genuinely getting out of hand.
I think KD has been able to get away with that lie a little bit more easily. You know what I'm saying? Like if you squint, you could be like, I could buy that he's not quite 7 feet. You know what I mean? Like, Wemby's impossible to believe that.
You believe that until you stand next to Durant. You go 6'11".
You're saying like, it doesn't. It's not as imposing from a visual standpoint as Wemby's height is, and that, I mean, the dude had 10 blocks without breaking a sweat, and it's not because he's sub 7 feet. You know what I'm saying? Like it's his height is a weapon, and it's really cool to see how comfortable he uses it.
Another thing that struck me the other night, and Edwin, I'm gonna give you a chance to go dig it up. There in the post game when they asked Wemby about the respect that he's starting to get from other players, and the triple double itself. Do you know the one I'm talking about, Derek? I mean, Edwin. Because there's something in there that I think needs to be brought up again, because I heard the highlight this morning as they're getting ready for the All-Star game, and they were highlighting Wemby's 29-minute triple-double. And I heard the sound yet again post-game of him talking about the 10 blocks and the way that he got the do you know which one I'm talking about, Edwin? Let's see if we can put this up.
The intimidation.
The intimidation one. Play this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fact, and it's getting harder to block shots as well. So I had to make that extra effort tonight, and because less and less people go at me, in the ring. But yeah, it's intimidation is. I can see it happen.
He's an uncomfortable intimidator.
He doesn't have the same kind of swagger that some people do, like intimidation swag. He's got his own definite swag, but there is like a cutthroatness to intimidation that he's still learning. I mean, he hasn't even played 50 games in the NBA yet. You know what I mean? Nobody needs to freak out. And plus, like, I don't think he really needs to try to intimidate people. Dude just put up a cool 29-minute triple-double with 10 blocks. I mean, like, I think that, the game is speaking for itself in the intimidation department.
But when you think of shot blockers, most guys that block shots, that is the A thing that they do.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's how they got here. That's why people love them. And that's what they're going to do. And they're going to tell you how good they are. They're the Mutombos that are going to wave the finger. Wemby's kind of like I'm going to hang in the back. If you want to get in the paint, yeah, I'm going to get it. But I'm not going to be scary about it, and play. When you have a guy that's threatening, you think about it first. But Wemby gets you from 10 feet away. I mean, you get into the lane and you think you're safe, and he comes and gets you. That's the kind of creeping dread that the league is starting to feel. It's starting to feel. And as they start to feel that, they're going to be giving him respect. Listen to what he said about his performance the other night and what he brings up first.
As a second thought, yes. But, I was trying to win first. But, yeah, almost got a quintuple double with turnovers.
Pause it right there. See the first thing he brought up? He was self-deprecating. He had the fastest triple-double in the history of the NBA. And the first thing he brought up, the first was his turnovers. That's the first thing that guy got brought up. He had just
He's
done
a humble
something.
guy.
Yes. So there's yet another reason to go, man, oh, man, I'm glad that guy's ours. Man, oh, man, we got us another one.
There are certain players who are dreams to root for, who are just dreams of favorite players for your team. Patrick Mahomes obviously kind of falls in that category.
Absolutely.
And a lot of and the reason people are dreams as opposed to just like great is because they're great off the field. Like Patrick Mahomes is just the coolest dude. You know what I mean? To be like this all-world talent. Steph has kind of been that way. Now these people are annoying, obviously, if that's not your team. But Wemby is, that guy for the Spurs specifically, and for what we value as basketball fans, Spurs players. It was like he was built in a lab to be not just a global NBA superstar, but one that plays for the San Antonio Spurs specifically.
We'll see yet again. Can they stack 2 in a row? It would be a nice send-off as a little break as we head into the All-Star weekend. We'll continue talking Spurs and look around the rest of the NBA as things are forming up for the stretch run.